In 2024, Donald Trump was re-elected president of the U.S., a billionaire friend of the billionaire class, a functional authoritarian. Disregarding the Constitution, justifying and pardoning insurrectionists, intimidating the media, but duly re-elected nonetheless. Worshipped by many church communities. Maybe it's time we looked in the mirror and ask why our lawyers are compromising. Our church leaders are compromising. Our business leaders are compromising. Our politicians are compromising. Maybe it's not about Trump. Maybe it's about us. And our not prizing our God-given rights and freedoms enough. In the Old Testament, Esau gave away his birthright for a bowl of stew. In 1867, the Russians sold the U.S. the territory of Alaska for $7.2 million. A founding shareholder in Apple Computer once sold out his 10% stake for $800. And in 2024, American voters handed the keys of the White House back to Donald J. Trump for the promise of a somewhat better economy and a few tax cuts.
Segment 12. A return to character.
It's all a lot to digest, but I'm willing to listen further.
Swindlers and schemers in the business world have been working hard to steal our God-given birthrights. They told us to be strong, because the strong have the right to rule over the weak. They told us that empathy and compassion is bad, but greed is good. In fact, that empathy was a sin and unchristian. They told us that anyone receiving help from the government was a parasite, and that government regulators were looters. They told us it made sense for billionaires to pay 6% in taxes while the middle class paid 4 times more. They told us that white-collar crimes are victimless and that they are unenforceable, but that petty drug crimes were our biggest problem. They told some of us that if they signed an NDA, they would become filthy rich. They told others that if they worked double shifts, they get rich, even as they themselves got richer without working at all. They told us to shop till we dropped and run up our credit cards and our loan balances, fighting to keep up with our neighbors and the latest trends until we become debt slaves of the overclasses. They told us who to hate, and they told us who and what to love, all while they were sending our jobs abroad, working on our permanent replacements. They even bribed many of our pastors with money, power, and influence, getting them to warp their teachings to conform to moneyed interests, leaving the cross far behind. And what was our reward for swallowing all that? An active campaign to install a monarch in America who would establish an oligarchy of billionaires, intimidate journalists and manipulate news reporting, intimidate, censure, define, and otherwise undermine our educational systems, actively promote ignorance and undermine democratic rule, an active campaign to replace us with AI, declining life expectancies, our personal bowl of pottage. Maybe, just maybe, they don't have our best interests at heart. Maybe their priorities lie elsewhere.
But there's nothing we can do about that, is there?
Well, we certainly can't address the broken character issues of the current leadership class until we strengthen our own. And it could be a simple matter of subtraction and addition, what you subtract from your life and what you add back in its place. For example, think for a minute. If you knew someone had consistently betrayed you, would you continue to follow their advice or view them as a credible source? Stop swallowing the lines fed to you from people who don't have your best interest at heart. Whatever source, cable, the web, social media, if it poisons or confuses your thinking, subtract it. And that means any source of poisonous information, regardless of how much flag-waving or Bible-thumping is going on. Next, monarchies cannot function without a docile, distracted, and compliant population under them. And they just love it when we spend our money financing and watching movies and media full of sex and violence and depicting minorities and immigrants as thugs and whores. While the real thieves make their billions behind closed doors and are rarely prosecuted. It's much easier to undermine a people when they are busy undermining themselves. Alcoholism, drug abuse, is a bondage in and of itself. It's much harder to keep sober people subdued when they do their own research and have a mind of their own. So if the trash needs emptying, empty the trash. That includes liquor bottles, drug paraphernalia, pornography. Subtract those trashy items that do nothing to improve your life and add nothing to your self-esteem. And if your child is being taught in the classroom that slavery was a good thing, then you have more work to do. And when you find something positive, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others. And we all know that the best slaves are those who voluntarily place themselves in a state of servanthood. Like buying an $80,000 plus automobile we can't afford, just to impress the neighbors. Or filling your closets up with clothes and shoes that you never wear. Cut up all those credit cards to free yourself from debt servitude. Eliminate impulsive spending and get out of debt, if possible. Which leads us to the first edition.
No man can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one, and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon.
Let's start with reverence for God. There is a strong reason why every successful rehab program includes a requirement to acknowledge God. Because simply put, it works. It's an acknowledgement that our way hasn't worked for us, that we need help to make it through. And the only way to deal with someone more powerful than you is to appeal to a power that is higher than them. That's where prayer comes in.
He hath showed thee, O man, what is good. And what doth the Lord require of thee but to do justly and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God?
Next, we need to restore a sense of community. In the corporate world, we were conditioned to see everyone who wasn't on our team as a competitor or even an enemy. And the corporate logo let us know who our friends and our enemies were. Or sometimes an enemy was someone outside our denomination. And conservative politicians have told us that immigrants are our enemies and we should fear them. But real faith communities are built on love, not hate, and faith, not fear.
Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ.
And speaking of carrying one another's burdens, maybe you and I need to rethink who our heroes are and who our kids' heroes are. You see, it wasn't in his own self-interest when that fireman pulled that child out of that burning building last week, but he did it anyway. And that nurse that pulled 2 shifts in the COVID ward before the vaccines were available, well, she wasn't acting in her own self-interest either. And that teacher who took a little extra time to make sure that she got fractions, well, she wasn't thinking about the fact that her rent is going up faster than her salary, or those folks who volunteered at the donation facility last week. Sometimes we don't have to travel far to find our heroes. And maybe that sports star pulling down $20 million a year isn't one of the heroes we should be honoring. Maybe it's time that we honor the sacrifices of our everyday heroes, rather than some fictional hero on our screens.
Speaking of everyday heroes, you can add one more. Sign me up. It's going to take all of us to regain the God-given freedoms that we are all now in danger of losing.
It's up to us to face the mistakes of the past and fight the ethical and ideological battles necessary to reclaim the moral high ground and build a better future for our children. And make no mistake, this battle began as a decades-long moralistic and ideological battle, fought in print and in the media by the likes of Ayn Rand, Jack Welch, Charles Murray, and Steve Bannon. We will not win this fight with simplistic appeals to the moral compass of people who are sorely lacking in that area. And violent resistance simply plays into their hands and arguments regarding parasites and looters. We must fight the difficult battle to reclaim the moral high ground and win back the hearts and minds of those who have fallen under the deceptive spell of the objectivist ideologues. Or we can allow the government to censor and rewrite our history and science books and teach our children the virtues of slavery, while bullying our colleges and universities into adopting their radical ideological framework and gutting our nuclear regulatory protections and our atmospheric and forecast agencies while suppressing the dangers of climate change. It's up to us whether we will forsake our birthrights that our forebears fought and died to secure for us. If we are willing to honor their sacrifices through sacrifices of our own. If we are willing to repair the breaches in our lost sense of community. If we are willing to seek God's help in doing so. If we are willing, then we can begin the process of reclaiming the inheritance that Ayn Rand and her progeny stole from us.